A woman named Corinne Ashworth wrote to me the week she landed home from France. She is 57. She lives outside Denver, Colorado. She taught middle school English for 31 years, and she had not left the country once since her husband passed 2 years ago. Because the thought of navigating an unfamiliar city alone felt like more than she could carry. She told me she almost canceled the trip 3 times. What changed her mind, she said, was watching a video on this channel about how deliberately certain women travel, and deciding that if she was finally going to go, she would go the way the women in that video did, prepared, unhurried, and dressed like she belonged there, rather than like she was passing through. She wrote to me afterward with something she called, half laughing, her most embarrassing proud moment. In Monaco, she had written her hotel's address on a card before leaving, the way I described, instead of simply holding up her phone screen for the taxi driver. She said she felt almost silly doing it, standing there with a handwritten note like a tourist from another decade, until the driver glanced at it, nodded, and treated her, in her words, like a woman who had clearly done this before, rather than one figuring it out in real time. She told me the small habits added up faster than she expected. She had checked a bag instead of living out of a carry-on for 2 weeks, left every piece of athletic wear at home, and spent the month before her flight reading about the history of the neighborhoods she'd chosen, rather than simply booking whatever came up first in a search. By the 3rd day, a concierge at her hotel complimented her, unprompted, on how she'd clearly done her homework before arriving, a compliment she said she hadn't received about anything in years. That is the consequence I want you to sit with, because it wasn't really about France. It was about a woman who had convinced herself that solo travel required a kind of confidence she didn't have, discovering that the confidence was never the prerequisite. The habits were. I think about Corinne's message often because it isn't a story about grief. Even though grief is what kept her home for 2 years, it is a story about how much of what we call confidence is actually just preparation, wearing a more flattering name. Nobody handed Corinne Bravery before that trip. She built a set of habits, sturdy enough that bravery became optional. My name is 𝐈𝐬𝐅𝐓. Every week I bring this community the information that nobody else is willing to say plainly. That community is called the Undeniables. If you are new here, subscribe right now. You belong here. And drop the city you are watching from in the comments below. I am always down there reading. I want to know where my fellow undeniables are. Habit 1, the pre-departure immersion. I have watched women arrive in a city already fluent in its story, its history, its food, its unspoken customs, while everyone around them is still reading a guidebook in the taxi. This signals respect for the place rather than mere consumption of it. A cultural historian I consulted for this video pointed out that travelers who study a destination's history beforehand consistently report deeper, more memorable experiences than those who arrive cold. Corinne spent the month before her trip reading about the neighborhoods she'd chosen and told me it changed what she noticed on every single street, a doorway, a plaque, a particular style of ironwork she wouldn't have registered otherwise. Something worth mentioning here, because it connects directly to what changed for Corinne. She went on to invest in the Undeniables Complete System, the full 30-day curriculum this channel is built on. She told me the identity work in that system is what made her feel, for the first time in years, like a woman who was allowed to take up space in an unfamiliar place. I'll come back to this once we've gone through the full list. Habit 2, leaving athletic wear at home. I've watched women pack the way they'd pack for a gym trip rather than a journey, leggings, trainers, quarter zips, and wonder later why they felt like tourists rather than travelers. A stylist who dresses several well-traveled women in my circle told me the rule she teaches every client. Pack as though you might be photographed unexpectedly, because in a city like Paris or Rome, you will be. Corinne left every piece of athletic wear at home for the first time in her adult life and told me it was the single decision that changed how she felt walking down the street each morning, less like she was passing through and more like she had somewhere to be. Habit 3, learning the language of the table. The women I know who travel well can order a meal, ask for the bill, and thank their server in the local language, even imperfectly. A linguist who studies travel behavior at Oxford has noted that even minimal effort with local language markedly changes how travelers are received by service staff. A woman in my circle who spends every spring in Provence told me she keeps a small card of 10 phrases in her handbag for every new country and has never once needed more than that. Corinne told me she used exactly 3 of hers, badly pronounced, and every single time a server's entire posture changed toward her. Habit 4. Choosing a central, storied neighborhood. I know some of you will disagree with me here, and I want to address that directly. Staying near a destination's historic core rather than a generic modern district is not simply about charm, it is about walkability, visibility, and frankly, safety, particularly for a woman traveling alone. A safety consultant who advises solo female travelers told me proximity to well-lit, well-trafficked historic centers consistently reduces the small risks that accumulate in unfamiliar cities after dark. Corinne chose a hotel 2 streets from the old town in every city she visited, specifically for this reason, and told me she never once felt the low-grade unease she'd braced herself for before the trip. Habit 5. The paper backup. This is the habit Corinne wrote to me about first. Every address, every reservation, written by hand on a card and kept in her bag, regardless of how reliable her phone's battery or signal seemed. A travel researcher at Cornell has documented how heavy reliance on a single device creates unnecessary vulnerability for travelers navigating unfamiliar transit systems. Corinne told me the taxi driver in Monaco, who read her handwritten card, treated her differently than she expected, not as someone lost, but as someone who had clearly done this before. She said she has since written it on a card for every reservation of her next trip, already booked for the spring. Habit 6. Checking a bag. Instead of traveling ultra-light. I have watched the ultra-light packing trend take over, and I want to say plainly that it is not a rule elegant travelers follow universally. Corinne checked a full bag for her 2-week trip and told me the ability to dress properly for a dinner, a museum, and a long walk without laundering along the way mattered more to her than the convenience of skipping the baggage carousel. A frequent traveler I know who consults for several boutique hotel groups agrees and packs for the trip she's actually taking, not for an imagined emergency exit from it. Corinne told me she wore something different to dinner every night of her trip, and that this small, ordinary luxury did more for how she felt at the table than she expected. Habit 7. Respecting the local rhythm. Several of you have written to me about the tension between tourists and residents in cities like Paris, and it is a real one. The women I've watched travel best move at the pace of the city they're in, eating dinner at the local hour, keeping their voices down on public transit, treating a neighborhood as someone else's home rather than a backdrop for their own trip. Corinne told me she noticed by her 2nd week that shopkeepers had started greeting her as though she belonged there, simply because she behaved as though she did. She said it was the first time in 2 years she'd felt like a woman moving through the world rather than one simply enduring it. Habit 8. The return ritual. The final habit is the one that ties every other one together, and it's the one Corinne described to me as the moment the trip truly finished changing her. Before unpacking a single bag, she sat with her journal and wrote down exactly what she wanted to carry home with her. Not souvenirs, but habits. A therapist who works with women navigating major life transitions told me this kind of deliberate re-entry ritual is what determines whether a trip's growth fades within a week or becomes permanent. Corinne's list, she told me, had 11 items on it, and by the time she'd finished writing, she said she no longer felt like a woman who had simply survived a trip. She felt like one who had reclaimed a version of herself she'd assumed was gone for good. Now, back to what I mentioned earlier, because it matters more here than anywhere else in this video. Corinne told me these 8 habits gave her the confidence to leave home, but the undeniable's complete system is what rebuilt the identity underneath that confidence. The first 90 seconds code on how a room reads you before you speak, and the full Aging Well blueprint on the wellness foundation that let her keep pace with a full itinerary at 57. It is $69. It is below this video or scan the QR code on your screen. I want you to have it. Here's what all 8 of these habits have in common. And here's what Corinne finally understood standing in a taxi in Monaco with a handwritten card in her hand. Confidence was never the ticket required to travel well. preparation was the ticket, and confidence was simply what arrived afterward, uninvited, once the preparation had already done its work. You do not need to feel ready. You need to be ready. The feeling follows. Corinne told me she used to believe that women who traveled alone, gracefully, at 50 and 60 and beyond, were simply built differently than she was. She knows now that they were only better prepared, and that preparation was always something she was entirely capable of building for herself, one habit at a time. Here's your assignment. Pick 3 of these 8 habits, not all 8, 3, and apply them on your very next trip, however near or far. Then come back and comment. I practiced the paper backup and the pre-departure immersion, and tell me what shifted. Comment below, or if you would rather keep it private, send me an email. I read every single one. Subscribe if you have not already. This community grows one honest habit at a time, and I want you inside it. There is a video on your screen right now that I recommend you watch next. It picks up exactly where this one leaves off. Until next time, to every woman watching, you are not here by accident. You are an undeniable. Act like it. Isabel.